KG Hypnobirthing has always supported midwives because in this country we are incredibly lucky to have a strong autonomous midwifery profession. This has put us ahead of many countries in the world in terms of natural and normal birth. May the 5th is the International Day of a Midwife, and so I have interviewed a senior midwife, Vanessa Hodge, at Wexham Park Hospital, so that she can tell us about what midwives do. Vanessa, we would really like to know a little bit more about midwifery. First of all, why did you become a midwife?
I became a midwife because a friend of mine had a really difficult traumatic birth experience, and I was 23 years old at the time. I was living in Greece and I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I knew I wanted to do something medically because I was fascinated with medicine and with the human body, but I had no idea what I actually wanted to do. And when my friend told me about her birth experience and that she was kept apart from her husband, she was on her own in a delivery room, the midwives weren't talking to her, the doctor came in, didn't talk to her, they did a routine episiotomy, and she found the whole thing really stressful and upsetting. And I asked her what would have made the difference, and she said, what would have made the difference is if somebody would have been kind to me. And I thought, you know what, I can do that, I can be kind. And so I then started exploring midwifery, and I came back to the UK and I joined a midwifery programme and trained to be a midwife in 1997, completed my training in 2000. And I've been working here at Wexham Park Hospital ever since as a midwife, and I absolutely love the job.
So was her experience in Greece or in the UK?
Her experience was in Greece. We don't do routine episiotomies in the UK, thankfully. That ended a long time ago. Midwives in the UK are very different to midwives in Greece. Midwives in Greece are obstetric nurses, so they are working under the direction of a doctor. They don't do the delivery, or deliver the baby. They will care for the woman during labour, and when the baby is about to be born, they will call the doctor to come and birth the baby. So in the UK, we're very lucky to have an autonomous practitioner in a midwife. So the midwife here is the expert, a recognised expert for normal pregnancy and normal birth in women having babies. So many women will never see a doctor through the whole of their pregnancy and will be cared for completely by a midwife from the day they book their pregnancy, right through all their antenatal care, through their labour and all their postnatal care, never come into contact with a doctor at all. So we are recognised as being the expert professional in this country for normal birth.
That's fantastic. So where would you see midwifery going in the future? Or where would you like to see midwifery going in the future?
I would like to see midwifery expanding to certainly include more home births. So our home birth rate is increasing. Home birth was really sort of ruled out in the 1970s, and women were encouraged to give birth in hospitals, and it was seen to be safer. However, there's a new birthplace study that came out recently, and the birthplace study actually states that for a first-time mother giving birth with a low-risk pregnancy, the safest place for her to give birth is in a birth centre. For a second-time mother who has had a normal birth the first time, the safest place for her to give birth is at home. So I really hope that midwifery is going to move back to being community midwifery, to being midwives going out to women at home and birthing their babies at home, because women give birth much better in their own environment rather than in a hospital environment. We can really try in all our birth centres to make it a really comfortable, warm, welcoming environment where women feel very comfortable and relaxed, but it's not home. And we know that women produce oxytocin, the hormone of labour, in a place where they feel most relaxed. So I hope that midwifery is going to be taking birth back home.
I'm a little puzzled by that finding of a birthplace study, because I cannot see the logic why a first-time mother should be safer, even though it's only marginally safer, in a birth centre, given that they have a midwife in either environment with the same training, more or less the same facilities in both places. Can you understand why that should be so?
The outcomes for in the birthplace study, the outcomes for the babies were slightly they were better when the babies were born in the birth centre than when the babies were born at home. So it wasn't that we lost babies, it was that babies were born in a better condition when they were in the birth centre. So I think it's something that needs to be repeated, because we have lots of women giving birth at home with their first babies, and if they are low risk, then they are very, very safe to give birth at home. And it's something that I would like to see more of. So I think a larger study needs to be done. It was only a very marginal difference, but because of that marginal difference, the results have been stated and the recommendations have been made that first-time mums give birth in a birth centre, which I think is better than it used to be, where it was everybody go to the labour ward. Now at least we have birth centres, so we're moving in the right direction, but what would be lovely would be to take birth back home for low-risk women, because we know that, for example, second-time mums, if we do bring them into the birth centre, their risk of intervention is higher than if we keep them at home. That's why it's recommended for second-time mums to stay at home and have a home birth, because the minute they come into hospital, there is a risk of intervention. So
but that applies to first-time mums as well, doesn't it?
Absolutely, it does. So we can only work with what we've got, and everything is changing slowly. Nothing changes, as quickly as we would like, but we have really strong support of midwives and wanting to take birth back home, wanting to promote normality. In this hospital, for example, when a lady phones up in labour, we field the calls, take all of the calls for labouring women on a birth centre. So it's a birth centre midwife who will take the call, take the history from the lady and recruit the lady to the birth centre. She may have decided in pregnancy, I want an epidural, and in labour, maybe coping well, and we will then recruit her to the birth centre. So we have a rate of delivery in this birth centre of over 20%, which is really good. And that's something that we're doing actively to encourage women to have normal birth. We've also started a post-dates clinic here, where we bring women in before their induction of labour date, that's been stipulated by the doctor. We bring them in here and we give them reflexology and aromatherapy to encourage their body to go into spontaneous labour and reduce the need for induction of labour, and that's working really well as well. So midwives are extending their skills to incorporate more complementary therapies, hypnobirthing. I've been trained as a KG hypnobirthing practitioner for about 4 to 5 years now, and we see a lot more ladies who are hypnobirthing here, and it's amazing. The women come in calm, relaxed, full of confidence in their ability to give birth. They have shorter labours. They give birth without stress, without distress, and it's a beautiful experience for the whole family and for the midwives. And I've been teaching the KG hypnobirthing method for 4 to 5 years now, and so all of these women who are giving birth here at Wexham Park, also they're now educating the midwives in how wonderful hypnobirthing is, and I get wonderful feedback from our midwives saying, oh, I had a KG hypnobirthing lady the other day, and she had the most amazing birth, and it was beautiful for me. I just could relax and enjoy the whole process, and they give me really good feedback. So we're really about embracing the normal, promoting normality, and really taking the patients away from intervention that is offered to them. So I had a lady this morning who's a GP whose baby is measuring large for dates apparently, but on her scan the growth is normal, and she's been offered induction of labour early because her baby's large. The lady is growing a normal size baby for her. She doesn't have any medical conditions, she doesn't have diabetes. So I talked to her this morning about having a normal birth, a normal labour on the birth centre rather than going to the labour ward, which is planned. And she's now thinking about that. If we don't have midwives who are prepared to challenge what the doctors are promoting, then we are in a state of affairs where women aren't getting the best care. And the best care for somebody who is having a low-risk pregnancy is by a midwife.